Hello and welcome to another round of the Wayports Racing League in Live for Speed, round 4, the Blackwood GP. We're here for Division 1 of the Wayports Racing League. I'm Peter Butcher, and joining me in the commentary box once again is Adam Brown. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Pete. Quite excited for this one. Blackwood, these drivers have quite a bit of experience around Blackwood. So this should be an exciting race with some hot times, some quick times, and some close racing.
Yeah, close racing indeed. We have had this track, in the first season of Wayports Racing League, and also, if you remember back to the pre-season test a few weeks ago, twice in season 1, once in the pre-season test. So the drivers should be pretty well up to speed with this track. Let's take a look at where we've been so far and where we're going in WRL. Today we are at round 4, the Blackwood GP, 14 laps around this fantastic track in Live for Speed. Then we're off to Fern Bay. Then Aston, Blackwood again for the Rallycross combination, Fern Bay, then back to Blackwood for the reverse direction of BLGP, and then Kyoto at the end of the season in July. Adam, why don't you talk us a little bit about this track?
So yeah, this is quite a popular track on the simulator we use in Live for Speed. It's kind of average length track. It's about 2 miles long. It's got 9 corners, or well, depends if you count the chicane as 1 corner or 3 corners. But yeah, we should be expecting about 1 minute 33, 34 lap times. So nothing too slow, nothing too fast. We've got a 14 lap race, which is should be quite a close race, that with
Yeah, certainly close racing at the top with the top drivers who've done the most practice throughout all the races we've done this season, and also at Blackwood in the past. As usual, we'll just get you up to speed with the car again. The front wheel drive XF GTI 1.3 litre inline 4 engine, weighing in at just under a ton with 115 brake horsepower. So let's see who's doing some times, and who's gonna set the pace this time. Will it be Andy? Will it be Mariano? Or will it be someone completely different? Let's find out.
Well, it looks like Felipe from Bundles is first on track, but he's about to be overtaken on a qualifying lap, it looks like, by Santiago there.
Yeah, he's on our screen right now, Felipe, and you can see the Strings car right behind. He's going to be all over him in a few seconds' time. Right, before these guys set their first lap times, Adam, let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship to see where these drivers stack up as we head into round 4. Mariano for Interlink France leads the way, ahead of Andy for Strings, 75 points to 56. Ian for Bundles, P3. Valentina for Interlink France in 4th. Then it's Santiago for Strings, William for Interlink Brazil, Eduardo for Interlink Argentina, Felipe for Bundles, who we're watching right now, Fabrizio for Interlink Brazil, and Camilla, the newcomer, for Interlink Argentina, with 2 points. Then over in the Teams Championship at the top of the table, we have Interlink France leading the way from Strings. Interlink France already above a century of points, but Strings looking to close that gap in the mid-season, with Andy showing pretty strong pace out there in the last couple of rounds. The win still eludes him, but yeah, we think it's going to come sooner rather than later with the amount of practice he's been putting in. Adam, Bundles there in P3, Interlink Brazil P4, and Interlink Argentina rounding out the board in 5th. So we've got some times on the board, and who is it at the top, Adam?
Well, talking about Andy and his practice, well, he's put it on provisional pole at the moment. The time he's set isn't as fast as we may expect. We'll be looking for some faster times later on in the session, as per usual. But yeah, I mean, Mariano's yet to set a lap yet, so we'll have to see how close they end up at the front.
Yeah, I do expect these times to close up. We do know that these drivers like to set their best laps at the end of the qualifying session. They go out for very long runs to these guys. And yeah, that gap at the top is surely going to come down, especially when Mariano puts together a lap. He's not yet finished a lap time. There we go. He's just come across the line. Look at the gap. Wow.
Yeah.
100th of a second behind Andy.
Well, if that's about as close a gap as you can get without setting the same times. That's incredible there at the front. I think that's pretty a pretty good sort of, I don't know, example of how close that these drivers have been throughout the whole season.
Yeah, Andy and Mariano are super close on pace. Obviously, they're doing a similar amount of practice overall. They have very different driving styles, which is what makes it more. I find that quite interesting because they do have very different approaches to their laps. Mariano tends to be very smooth. Andy does seem to be a little bit more aggressive, but they end up basically the same pace, and they're trailing each other around the track very closely during the races. So. Qualifying is not a true reflection of obviously these guys, how it's going to work out for them in the race, but it is a good indication as we see one of the Interlink Argentina drivers there getting very close to the back of Mariano on his second timed lap. A bit scary there. But anyway, we're watching Mariano, the number one, the winner, the champion from season 1 of Wayports Racing League, and really the brainchild, one of the brainchilds behind the season. As he comes up to the final corner then, let's see, can he find that 200th that he needs just to get in front of Andy? This looks like a pretty attacking lap, Adam.
Yeah, using absolutely all of the track in that final corner and running it out very wide onto the start-finish straight. Yeah, beats his previous time by a couple tenths and goes provisional pole.
Yeah, provisional pole by just over 0.2 of a second. But let's see, Andy had a little bit of traffic there on his lap. Let's see if he can improve. He's got 3 minutes left in the session to try and get ahead of Mariano. It wasn't good enough on that lap. I do wonder if that back marker did have something to, did have some effect on that. But anyway, Andy does have one of the bundles cars up ahead of him as well, and he's gone very deep into turn 1, Adam.
Yeah, interesting. You note the amount of time we've got there, 3 minutes. Mariano should get 2 or 3 laps in, but Andy's going to get 1 less.
Yeah, he's a little bit behind. He's had more laps already in the session, but yeah, he's at the sort of place on lap you don't want to be when you've got the clock ticking down into the dying moments. Mariano's probably timed it well, as Andy's actually backing off on this lap, Adam. He doesn't want to attack on this lap, so he's actually bailed on this one.
Well, he obviously thinks he's fast enough that if he had kept trying, he would have caught up to the back of that bundles car. So obviously some confidence there. Maybe he's just slowing down to make sure the tires don't overheat.
Maybe we do know that Andy does tend to suffer a little bit towards the end of the session. Again, with that more aggressive driving style, his tyres do get a little bit warm. Santiago clipping the apex really nicely there on the second to last. The other strings entry, who really surprised us last time with his pace. He was really up there. He's gone a bit wide on the final corner, but here he comes to the line. Currently P3, only a tenth behind his teammate Andy at the moment, and no improvement on this lap for Santiago.
Yeah. This is going to be Santiago's final lap, as we see Ian from Bundles. Ian up in 4th, which is a pretty decent position for him. He's about 2 seconds off the pace of Mariano, though.
Yeah, Mariano did set a very fast time just then. He's the only driver inside the 35s just now. He went across the line, which is almost 8 tenths ahead of Andy now. That's quite a void. And Andy didn't improve again on that lap, obviously, because he wasn't pushing. This is it for Andy. He's got 1 last lap. A lot better through turn 1. A little bit of space given away on the apex as he comes through the chicane. Nice on the first part. A little bit wide in the middle, and uses all the exits, so that's okay.
Made sure he kept the throttle in all the way through that chicane, though, and he was quite early on the throttle out of the actual hairpin. So he should have a lot of speed coming down into this turn 5. Quite a tricky turn 5. It's some very wide entry.
Yeah, and very bumpy as well under the brakes. Even in the low-powered XFG, it really can throw you off a little bit and push you wide. Heavy on the brakes, turns in. It's a little bit wide. Could have been way more over that curb, but decent. And not using all the exit curb. He doesn't feel as though he needs to. 1 chicane to go. This quick right-left complex. And then into the final sector of Blackwood GP we go. Over the hill. Under the Wayports Racing League bridge we go. 2 to go, Adam.
Yeah, it's a good split time, but I don't think it's good enough to beat Mariano's time. This has to be a tidy final sector. Maybe not using as much of the track as you would have hoped. Runs it tiny bit off the apex there, but
Yeah,
That was
it didn't
clean.
look as attacking as we're used to seeing from Andy. Maybe the nerves have set in a bit. I don't know. Really tight line to the line. It doesn't. He does improve, but it's still 3/10 the gap. So he knocked about 4/10 off his time there. But it does look like Mariano has pipped him again. And yeah, what a lap there from Mariano. The only driver then in the 135s. Looks like he's still going for another one. He can. I think he crossed the line in time, Adam.
Yeah, I believe he did.
Let's see then. He is the only driver, I think, still on a timed lap. Or at the, well, yeah, he'll be the final car across the line to set his final time lap. So we will watch. Can Mariano show the rest of the field what he's made of and make this gap even bigger? It's already 3/10 of a second. What will it be when he crosses the line?
Very nice second split there. One's a bit wide there in turn
That
8,
was
though.
quite wide for him, yeah, for sure. As one of the Interlink Argentina cars choosing to go into the pit lane ahead of him. Let's see. It looks like a pretty... Yeah, he's so much more committed through that final corner, as you can see. Up to the start-finish line he comes. And no improvement on that final attempt. But it doesn't matter because Mariano takes pole position for round 4, the Blackwood GP in Wayports Racing League. I believe that's all the times we're going to get, Adam. So let's do a rundown of the order.
Yeah, so as you say, Mariano on pole by, I think this is, I don't think it's the biggest margin we've had, but it's certainly for a track that these drivers know so well. It's a reasonable gap from Mariano on pole to Andy in second. Santiago in third. Again, about half a second off of his teammate Andy, but that's representative of what we've seen. Felipe in fourth, who is about 2 seconds off that top 3, so we've got quite a big gap there. But it should be a close battle for that 4th position, because right behind him, his teammate Ian from Bundles is only about a 10th slower. And we've got Eduardo from Interlink Argentina, 6th Valentina from Interlink France in 7th, William from Interlink Brazil in 8th, and Camilla from Interlink Argentina in 9th.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Valentina would be hoping that she was slightly higher up. Again, as we keep mentioning the drivers, this is the track that they're most experienced at in the league. And Valentina, who, if you remember, had a podium, her first podium in Wayports Racing League last time out, she'll really be hoping for a great start. But she's got some competition if she wants another podium. Santiago, currently occupying the 3rd spot, he looks fast. And the gap, I'm just looking at the gap between 3rd and 4th, it's quite big.
Yeah. It definitely is quite big. This should be very good for strings if they ease off a bit and keep it consistent and keep it clean. Then they should have a double podium there. But
We've said that before, haven't we?
Yeah, indeed we have. So
right.
We'll have to wait and see.
We will. We won't have to wait and see very long, Adam. We're going to take a very quick break here. We'll be back for the round 4 of Blackwood GP Wayports Racing League in a couple of minutes' time. Welcome back to round 4 of Wayports Racing League Season 2 at Blackwood GP. We just finished qualifying here, and Mariano is on pole position with Andy for strings alongside him in P2, and his teammate alongside Felipe on the 2nd row. Ian from Bundles is alongside Eduardo for Interlink Argentina. Then it's Valentina and William on row number 4, and Camilla on the final spot in P9, Adam.
Yeah, hopefully Camilla doesn't cause that much of an issue with the time like that, but we'll have to wait and see.
We will indeed. Here we have the drivers on the grid for the start of the race, and Mariano's going to be hoping for a very, very decent start. There he is with Andy alongside him. Here are the lights. We are green for round 4. Mariano gets a really nice pull away, and Andy's not that close alongside just yet, but it's a long run down into turn 1, Adam. Here they come. The 2 strings teammates pretty close.
A strong headwind into turn 1. This means that they'll be able to go late on the brakes. Andy's demonstrated that with a beautiful cutback there for the lead of the race. too wide through this chicane. This is incredibly dangerous with all those curbs, and Andy backs out of it somewhat sensibly there, but
Oh,
maybe
we've
a
got
bit
cars
too
off in the
much.
background. That's a really big accident in the back. I wonder. Uh, ooh, wow. So we've got both Bundle's cars involved and Eduardo who has to reset the car. We just missed it, but there was a big coming together over the sausage curb on lap one. Some of the drivers just not taking it as easy as they need to on the opening lap. The big winner there was Valentina. She managed to keep it clean. She's up to P5 from P7. But yeah, the gap between Andy and Mariano on this opening lap is pretty big right now. And yeah, it looks like we're going to be seeing a battle between the Strings teammates rather than the two guys we want to see going at it, Andy and Mariano. Mariano's really put in the work this week, Adam.
Yeah, I think Andy's been caught off guard there. He wasn't expecting the pace from Mariano. Andy was faster throughout practice, but obviously something's happened here.
Yeah, the driver who is yeah frequently putting in the highest lap count in practice, Andy, is under attack from Santiago, who we sometimes doesn't do practice online with the others. He does it offline, so we don't really know Santiago's pace until race day. And clearly, he's got some because he is within striking distance of his teammate at this early stage of the race. Lap one complete, and we have quite a void between the top three. But then we head back to Felipe for Bundles, who is defending hard from Valentina, who I mentioned she got away unscathed. It doesn't look like she did because the left side of that car is looking a little bit damaged as they head into the first corner for the second time. You can see the damage on both of these cars, actually. Felipe with a bit of an indent in the front of his car, and Valentina with some left front side damage.
Yeah, there is damage. It doesn't look too much on the internals of the car or on the suspension. It looks like it's mostly cosmetic, but it's still damage, and it's still stuff that the drivers will need to take into account there.
Yeah, as we see Eduardo pulling past Ian. Ian's been over, I think. Ian, which we say this every week. It seems as though Ian ends up ruining the rear track of his car every single week. I don't know what's going on. You can see the rear track length of that. Look at that perfect camera angle there. The rear is so much shorter than the front now, narrower. Sorry, and yeah, every week we say this. I don't quite understand what's going on.
In front of him, we've got two cars off. I can hear.
Yeah, Eduardo and William in the gravel, and there we are. Ian, with that battered and bruised car, has made up a place, or has he? As Eduardo tries to make the move around the outside. This is going to be bad for Eduardo. He's going to clout the sausage, and he's over again. So that's the second time Eduardo's rolled the car. Wow,
he's managed to keep it on its wheels. That was impressive. Of course, you have to be very careful of those curbs on the inside of the corners. There's quite a few of them.
Yep.
You see, if we stay with Mariano here, through this first sector, the chicane here has got some absolutely lethal curbs on both the inside of first part and the last part. So definitely, we might be seeing some more of that rolling action going on later in the race.
Well, some of the drivers here may have a career in stunt driving. Eduardo definitely in 2 laps has rolled the car twice, which is impressive. Andy and Santiago are still close together, but the gap at the front now, as you can see there, is nearly 3 seconds to Mariano. He really is putting in the lap times. He's got the fastest lap of the race. Andy will not like the sight of that Interlink France car disappearing up the road in front of him, as Ian loses another place to Eduardo. And Ian's been on his roof. I'm not surprised. I am not surprised because of the obviously the damage to that car, but he has now reset. The drivers are allowed to reset the car in this series, and away he goes.
Yeah, I'm wondering what happened there, because that was quite a strange place to roll. But of course, with the damage like he had, that car rolls even easier with the shorter rear track length there.
Yeah, we ride on board with Santiago, and you can just see the gap here is really close between the Strings teammates. Now, as I mentioned before, these guys, I don't think they practice together, so for them to be so close on pace is merely coincidental. Santiago is within striking distance, certainly, of Andy, and if you were paying close attention there, you saw Andy's really aggressive through that final corner. Again, Andy leaving rubber on the road as he breaks down into the first corner. Santiago with the more traditional wider line.
Front, we've got Camilla from Interlink Argentina,
Oh,
lapped
no!
car getting in the way of Santiago there. That's less than ideal for Santiago. He will have lost 2
A
or
lot of
3
time.
seconds
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. That gap is going to be huge at the split. There we go. There's the sector line. And yeah, you're right, Adam. He's 2.5 seconds now behind Andy. That is less than ideal.
Yeah, I mean, on the lap before, we saw Mariano. Time difference between Mariano and Andy was a bit smaller than it had been the laps before, but looks like Mariano again got responded to that, and he's put another amazing split one time in there.
He's certainly throwing the gauntlet down, isn't he, today? Like he's taking no prisoners. He's making sure that he gets these lap times in, lap after lap. The consistency of Mariano throughout the season has been really impressive, and it's certainly coming. Well, it's becoming more apparent today as the gap at the front now 4 seconds back to Andy.
And yeah, we are hearing that every one of the drivers in this top 3 is faster in different parts of the track than each other. So yeah, Andy's much faster in the first split, Mariano in the second split, and Santiago in the final split.
Yeah,
But
so definitely showing where the drivers are stronger and weaker than each other. But at the moment, it doesn't matter because Mariano is stronger basically everywhere to these guys. We look at Felipe; he must be really struggling with the damage on that car now as he heads around the first corner. Valentina has dropped back a little bit. There's 6 seconds now between those two as Valentina runs very wide at the first corner. Lots of grass being thrown up there, and yeah, it looks like Strings, if they stay this way, are going to be coming out with a very nice points haul. Remember that the drivers still have to make their mandatory pit stop in these races. At some point during the 14 laps, they have to go into pit lane, stop in a box, and then head off again. And all of the drivers will do that at some point, we hope.
yeah, you beat me to that, Pete. I was just going to mention that normally by now, at least somebody would have made a dash for pit lane, but it doesn't look like anyone has yet.
No, Mariano will just stay out. He'll manage the pace. He'll check out when everybody else is coming in. So Andy and Santiago both driving past. So Santiago makes a bit of an error there, but yeah, he's the gap to Andy's definitely holding. I do wonder if he was making gains until that little bit of an error out of the penultimate corner.
I mean, Andy's just set quite a nice lap there. Still not quite as fast as Mariano though. There was 100th in their lap times in that last lap, over that last lap. Mariano with a 36.49 and Andy with a 36.5 dead. So they're incredibly close on pace. It's just Mariano is up the road.
Speaking of close on pace, we've got Eduardo and Ian on the same piece of tarmac, swapping positions. Of course, Ian has been on his roof. As Ian comes into the pits, actually, he doesn't want to get into that battle with Eduardo. He'd rather have free track position. So Ian makes his way into pit lane and down to the 80 km/h, 50 mph speed limit. He finds a box just about. There we go. And then stops the car. And he'll be on his way immediately. Quick stop for Ian, 2.6 seconds.
So yeah, that he won't have made any damage repairs or changed tires or anything. He might have taken a splash of fuel, but that was very quickly in and out of the box there.
Yeah, a tiny amount of fuel going into that car for the remainder of the race. Some drivers opt to, fuel up at the beginning of the race.
Sorry to interrupt you. It looks like we've got Mariano in the pit lane. So he's opted to take his pit at on lap 6. So
yeah, it's possible he was catching up to the back marker of Camilla, as far as I know. Maybe he thought, well, if I go into the pit lane, I can avoid overtaking Camilla on an unfavourable part of the track. That does put Andy into the lead as Mariano does a 1.6 something second pit stop as he heads out onto pit exit. He will return into P3 just behind Santiago. The two Strings drivers have yet to stop. They'll do that at some point. There's Camilla there moving out of the way of Santiago, but let's see. Let's see how Mariano handles the traffic. There we go. Just got Camilla parked off to the side of the track, just trying to let those guys through.
Yeah, while Mariano's been in the pits, Andy is, well, he's set the fastest split one time, I believe. Very clean lapping he's doing at the moment. Very stable under brakes into that fifth corner there. Maybe a bit wide though.
Yeah, a lot of lock going on that car. Maybe braked a little bit too late. This car and this track really does favour drivers who are smoother and less attacking, especially over a longer race. And Andy, he's very fast, but he doesn't seem to have quite found the smoothness that Mariano has. If we go on board with Mariano at some point, I'm sure we'll see those slightly different driving styles once again on display here. We have a battle on track, Adam, between Interlink Brazil and Interlink Argentina. William versus Eduardo. Eduardo trying to get through. Eduardo slightly out of the slipstream there. You'd expect him to pull him behind to get the free drag down the straight, but William deciding to go defensive on the Interlink Argentina driver there.
Interesting to note that, as we see William with a big lockup there.
Yeah. He's going to be off. He's got quite a lot of, and that was close. A lot of lock on, and he's driven off the track again.
Driven into the grass, obviously spooked a bit by Eduardo, not expecting him to come up the inside like that. But yeah, that's a move made for Eduardo from Interlink Argentina.
Santiago setting the timing screens alight on the previous lap with the fastest sector 2. And yeah, it does look like the strings guys are turning up the wick. They really need to, because Mariano after his pit stop is only 12 seconds off of Andy. So Andy's got to have a really, really quick pit stop and a very quick couple of laps. The laps are ticking away. After this lap, we'll only have 6 to go. And yeah, Andy needs to get the hammer down if he wants to put any sort of, if he wants to close that gap to Mariano. It's possibly too little too late. He's going to have to hope that Mariano makes an error, because that's really all that's going to stop him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Andy, I would stay out as long as possible and just put the laps in. Don't have anything to put me off. Don't be trying anything weird with the strategy. I would just be trying to stick some consistent laps in, as he's doing at the moment. But trying to get ahead of Mariano through the pit box, through the pit stops, instead of on track, as Santiago behind is in the pits.
Yeah, Santiago's pitted, but just on our screens there, you can see that Andy just set the fastest lap of the race. So right when he needs to, he's putting the times in. I don't think it's going to be enough. Santiago had a very long stop because he missed his box. He had to find a different pit box and then stop. So even more time being lost for Santiago. I don't think he's at risk of being overtaken by the bundles car of Felipe, because I think he's going to exit the pit lane ahead, in fact, of Felipe, only just. Felipe and Valentina, an update on that battle. They're still pretty close, but yeah, Felipe is holding his own against the second Interlink France driver. So it's all a question now of, can Andy close that gap while he has clear track ahead of him?
Yeah, I mean, again, he's set a fast split one time, as he's got yellow flags up ahead of him. That's Camilla from Argentina again, being lapped.
Yeah, Andy goes wide onto the grass. That's not ideal. Camilla is moving out of the way, I believe, although moves back onto the racing line in front of Andy. This is going to hold him up a bit. He's gone deep. Let's take a look on the outboard.
Contact there. Doesn't look like Andy's got any damage, but that is really not good at all for Andy.
No, it's just what he didn't need. But this is what happens in racing. Sometimes you can do the perfect laps, and then just when you don't need it, there's a back marker in your way. Andy comes across the start-finish line to start lap 10. At some point in the next 5 laps, he's going to need to come into the pit lane. He can't do it on the last lap, so actually in the next 4, breaks up into turn 1. And I can tell you, Adam, that the gap to Mariano is about the same as it was when Mariano pitted. In fact, it's come down now, thanks to Camilla a little bit there by a second. So Andy, unfortunately, isn't going to be ahead, I don't think.
Sorry to interrupt.
What happened there?
Contact again. The leader's being caught out by Camilla.
Mariano won't like that. Let's see. We'll get an update at the split time. In the meantime, Felipe made a stop, didn't bother to repair the damage, which is fair enough. Valentina decides to follow suit, follows Felipe into the pit lane, and she's on her way as well. And look, Adam, look at the gap to Mariano. It has gone up.
Yeah, Andy may have been slowed down, but Mariano was slowed down much more.
3 seconds. 3 seconds. That could be it. That could be enough. Let's see. Andy may have been lucky there. Obviously unlucky to get involved with back markers, but Mariano just came into more trouble doing the lapping. Eduardo's in the pit lane for his stop, the Interlink Argentina driver. He's done some damage repairs on that, so that's going to be a while. His main rival in the race, William, has come into the pit lane as well, and also takes damage repairs. So that's going to promote Ian. Ian's in P6 now, and I wonder when he's going to be in the pits.
I find it strange if you can take a reset, why you wouldn't take a reset instead of repairing your car. But yeah.
Yeah, William has made it out of the pit lane ahead of Eduardo, which is interesting. And Andy, the gap to Mariano's come down on this lap. So Andy's struggling at this late stage of the race as he mounts the curb at turn 1. Remember, he's still not served his pit stop. He's leaving it really late, later than we're used to. The gap 13.6 seconds, which it's going to be close. But at this point in time, Mariano will still have the jump on the Strings driver who currently leads the race. Mariano will be a little bit annoyed about the backmarker traffic he had, but he shouldn't worry too much because, yeah, the gap is still safe. He can't afford any more mistakes, though, any more backmarker trouble or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, Andy will be hoping that get in and out the pit lane quickly if he doesn't forget. I did find it a bit strange that he's left it so long, and we have had Strings cars running out of fuel. Last race we had Santiago run out of fuel.
Yeah, that was what gave Valentina the podium, in fact. And Camilla's finally coming to serve her pit stop. That's damage repair going on that car, so that will be a while. Santiago is probably not going to be within striking distance of Andy, who now, Adam, decides to come into the pit lane.
Yeah, maybe he was listening to us there, making sure he's getting in that box. He's right on the pit lane limit.
Oh, yeah, it was very, very fast entry. He's going to go for the final pit box. It's a big risk if you miss it. There we go. Penultimate pit box for Andy. It's a quick stop. Where is Mariano? Mariano is going to be sailing past. Yeah, that gap just wasn't enough. Andy set the fastest pit stop, but Mariano takes over the lead as Andy there just still inside the pit lane. Santiago is a way back, and we're going to have a battle in the pit lane. We've got Andy who's going to have to get past Camilla at the pit exit. Andy just decides to cut through those bollards there, taking a bit of a shortcut, but we don't mind that, do we, Adam?
Yeah, I would say that's fair enough considering what's happened a bit earlier on. But yeah, so Andy kind of gained through the pit stops there, but I don't think he's gained enough.
No, certainly not. We've got 3 laps to go, including this one, and look at the gap. We've got a 2.1 second gap. Andy would need to take just under a second off of Mariano every lap to win the race. Andy still has to get past, remember, so he just needs really tidy laps, and he just has to hope for a mistake from Mariano.
Yeah, it looks like the gap's already come down a bit. Mariano may be feeling the pressure a bit.
Eduardo and William are going at it, and looks like William's baited Eduardo into following him almost off the track there. But Eduardo makes that place. Eduardo did lose the position in the pit lane, if you remember, because of the longer pit stop, but he's got William back on the track, and William's gone off, and that'll be almost into the wall. We've got Eduardo getting past Camilla, and Santiago getting past Camilla, and surely in a couple of seconds' time, William will be trying to get past Camilla as well.
Yeah, hopefully it's a bit cleaner this time around, but William with the very, very hot fronts, obviously. Watch out getting past Camilla there.
Andy's pushing, he's really pushing. He's gone wide at turn 1, but he's trying to do everything to catch up to Mariano. Mariano's being super smooth, fastest split through on the previous lap. Andy clouts the curb. almost pitching it over onto its roof. That was quite some airtime there from Andy. We've got Felipe trying to get the position back on Valentina. I didn't quite catch where these two swapped position. It may have been in their pit stop or just afterwards, but Valentina somehow found herself ahead of Felipe. And this is important for points. If Valentina can secure that P4, that is probably enough to keep Interlink France ahead of Strings in the Teams Championship. And I would say, Adam, I think that gap's going up. So good job from Valentina there.
Yeah, it looks to me like Felipe isn't having very much fun with the heat of his front tires. They're looking quite overheated. Suffering from lockups there into the first corner.
Yeah, so both of these drivers getting involved in some way in the incident on the opening lap. In fact, the corner that they're going through now.
It looks to me like Felipe might be able to make a move on Valentina coming down this back straight. They're side by side.
Yeah, they need to be careful here. You don't want to have side-by-side contact with your team, with your opponents in this series. But here we go. Felipe marginally ahead. Mariano does the fastest lap while we watch this battle. Felipe later on the brakes. He's going to go a bit deep. Valentina with the tighter line will retain the position. So this is a great fight for P4 as Camilla rejoins ahead of these guys. And girls.
Yeah, looks to me like Valentina might have the move done.
Absolutely, Felipe. Yeah. Oh, well held. Amazing. Wow, that's going to go down as stunt of the series. Well held there. Didn't quite roll it over like Eduardo did, but yeah, good, well held.
Yeah, that was an incredible bit of two-wheel driving there. I think you said earlier that some of these guys could apply to be a stunt driver. And,
oh yeah, I think most of the field could well and truly fill out their resume with a portfolio of clips from this series. But anyway, Mariano has only got a couple of corners left to go before he crosses the start-finish line. And will he be ahead of Andy? 3 seconds the gap now. It's looking almost certain, isn't it? Only 2 corners for Mariano now before he takes yet another win. Don't want to jinx it, but here we go. 2 corners to go for the Interlink France driver. 1 to go now. And yeah, what a super drive. He's just super consistent. Even though it looked like Andy might be on similar pace to him in the qualifying session, the void was just huge at the beginning. And here he comes down the hill, across start finish. Mariano for Interlink France takes the win in the Blackwood GP, and that makes it 4 from 4 for him. And Andy once again has to settle for P2. But I don't think he'll be too disappointed with that one, Adam. Mariano just had the better of him today.
Yeah, obviously didn't have the nicest of starts, Andy, but he managed to keep that 3-second gap very consistent. So you should be pleased with his pace over the race, even if he didn't get that I've been hoping for.
We're watching Valentina here, who seems to have completely dropped Felipe after his excursion over the back of that sausage curb. So Valentina will be pretty happy with this position. Obviously, Santiago, congratulations to him. He actually finished this race with enough fuel left, which is a great start. He finishes P3 to take up that final podium position. Valentina comes around the final corner, will be just off of the podium this time, but still really, really good points for Interlink France. I'm sure Valentina will be quite relieved after that qualifying session. Started P7, finishes P4. Well done to her. Here comes Felipe. Look at the front of that car. It makes me laugh every time. Across start finish, nursing damage that he picked up from the crash at the beginning. P5 for him. Ian across the line to finish P6, the final car on the lead lap. Then we had Eduardo, who was a lap down in P7 for Interlink Argentina. William for Interlink Brazil. And where's Camilla? Has Camilla finished? Camilla's still driving around, so sorry about that. Camilla's still making her way around the...
I believe that Camilla disconnected from the server.
Camilla's... Yeah, she's gone. So, she'll still be classified for completing more than enough laps in this race. But there we are then. Let's run down the full order and maybe we can get some driver interviews. I'm sure Mariano's going to be ecstatic, and I'm looking forward to talking to Santiago if we can get a hold of him. So let's have a look then. Final classification for Wayports Racing League Season 2, Round 4. Mariano for Interlink France wins in 23 minutes 2:08.50. Then it's Andy for strings, 2.8 seconds behind. Santiago for strings, 26 seconds off. Then it's Valentina just off the podium this time round in P4. Felipe followed by Ian for bundles. Then it's Eduardo and William for Intlink Argentina and Brazil. And then Camilla, who finishes 5 laps down on the classifier in P9. Fastest lap going to Mariano for Intlink France. And interestingly, on the final lap, Adam, Andy set a time within 300ths of a second, so a 1:36.2. What would that be? 2:7. So pretty fast.
Yeah, I was watching him on that final lap, and it looked like it was going to be the fastest lap, but I think he got a bit too happy on the horn over the start-finish straight, and I think he might have let off the throttle a wee bit, so he'll be kicking himself there. Could have had the fastest lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking over at the team standings, that does push Interlink France slightly ahead, and it certainly promotes Mariano's championship hopes as well. So excellent work there. Let's go and grab a couple of drivers for interviews, Adam, and see who is ready to talk to us. I really hope we can get a word with Santiago. But first of all, I think it's about time we talk to our race winner. It's Mariano for Interlink France. Mariano, that was a super race. A little bit scary when you came into contact with Camilla, but yeah, talk us through it. Congratulations for another race win.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really close. So yeah, I had the pace to get this. I was feeling better than in the last race. The close contact, yeah, my heart nearly stopped there. I was like really scared for what Andy was doing. So I knew he had the pace as well. He was quite close. So I don't know what happened. It took me longer to get to what I was doing before. In practice, I was getting like easy 35.9s. I couldn't get to it now. And then my tires felt really weird. I kept, missing a turn there.
Yeah, I think the thing there in the race was the wind. Did you take into account the wind at all there, or were kind of not thinking about that?
I don't know if it changed, frankly, from practice into the race. Maybe that's what changed.
Yeah, it did quite significantly, actually. Yeah.
Oh, that's that then. Yeah, I was quite comfortable, and then I couldn't explain why. I was trying different braking points, nothing was working. But yeah, I was kind of consistent around the 36, and that did it.
Yeah, hot tip for the next race then. Take a look at the flags around the track, and they'll tell you where the wind's blowing.
Right.
Down into the braking zones. So excellent work yet again, denying Andy the race win. But I think you genuinely had it on merit this time. Your pace in qualifying was amazing.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, always a pleasure.
Brilliant. Hope to see you next time, Mariano. Congrats, and see you at round 5.
Thanks. Take care.
Mariano there for Interlink France, taking the win in round 4. Let's chat to Andy. Andy, hi. How's it going?
Hey there. Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks a lot. Was a good race. Yeah, you think too?
Absolutely. I think your pace at the end, it took you quite a while to get up to speed. Is it fair to say in the race? But towards the end, you were lapping basically on par with Mariano. You did the fastest pit stop as well of the race, and in the end, just not enough. Mariano did have the legs on you today, which is the first time actually I think we've said that all season long.
Yes, first of all, congrats to Mariano, who did a great job the whole week. I couldn't believe it. Where does he get this pace? We battled a lot this week, and he was always at least as fast as me, and consistent, of course. And the fastest lap is almost equal. And I tried his strategy with a full tank and a quick stop, and making that stop very late in the race. But of course, I had a long time to get this pace with the cold tires, with that amount of fuel. So I'm quite glad with the second place. It's not far away from him.
No, definitely not. And yeah, if you keep putting these results in, sooner or later, your luck has to change. I mean, you do so much practice for these races. One of these days, it's gonna pay off. But yeah, today, P2 again. Probably the largest margin actually that we've seen between you and Mariano today. But next time out, we're going to a track that may be less familiar to both of you, so it might level the playing field a bit. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited about a new track, of course, learning that thing, practicing. And you have to consider this race was the first race without incidents. So I might have improved a little bit and looking forward to the next race. Maybe keep the pace and do a good job on the track and have a very fine battle with the guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
certainly.
certainly did notice that you maybe weren't making as many mistakes as you had in previous rounds. Is that something you've been working on?
Yeah, I just lose the pace for one lap and try to get consistent laps. That's something I learned from Mariano, and someday it will pay out.
Someday we hope so. See you next weekend, Andy. It was a pleasure to watch you again. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, and see you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. And yeah, let's have a word with Santiago. Santiago, P3 today. Congratulations for finishing this one on the podium. It wasn't quite as easy last week, but yeah, well done. P3. How did it go?
Hi, people. Oh, what a race. It was a tough one. I'm glad, to be honest, but I think I had a lot of mistakes. I could have avoided them, but I had to practice more.
Certainly. I mean, but we can see that the practice has definitely paid off because you were lapping at least at the beginning of the race on pace with Andy, your teammate, and we thought at one point, oh, is Santiago actually going to be able to, get past Andy here, which would be a first in the series. Not quite, but you've got to be happy with your improvement and your pace in this one.
Yeah, of course. I was talking about that on the waiting room. That at some point I thought I was going to crash with him. So then I think I need to stop a bit, okay? But then as I said, I started to make a lot of mistakes. But at the beginning, I had a good race for the beginning.
You definitely did. It was exciting. And looking at the teams championship, which is becoming more and more interesting every race because you and Andy are finishing consistently high up. And Intlink France, obviously Mariano is doing very well, but Valentina's finishes are a little bit more variable. So with consistent high points finishes for strings, you're looking promising in the teams championship. Is that something that you and Andy have talked about at all?
Really no, but I think it's a win for us for strings. I mean, yep.
Wow, glad that it feels like a win. Hopefully, we can see a strings driver actually on the top step of the podium at some point in the next 6 rounds that we have here in Wayports Racing League Season 2. Hopefully, it can be you, Santiago. It's been great talking to you. Catch you next week.
I believe. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah.
So that brings to a close the interviews, Adam. What a round.
Yeah, that was quite impressive. There was some brilliant racing going on there, and it was, for the most part, very clean as well. So, yeah, congratulations to the drivers. It was fast driving there.
Certainly was. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Next week, we head to a new track for the drivers. It is round 5, Fern Bay Green, on Saturday, May 29th at 2 o'clock UTC. We hope we hope you will join us for that. It's going to be a fun one. I've been Peter Butcher. I've been joined by Adam Brown in the commentary box. We wish you all a fantastic day. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.